he was convicted because he said, "gas the Jews." And that is clearly not just a hate crime, but an incitement to murder. So it is quite right that he was prosecuted, because free speech stops when you incite the murder of other human beings.
Yeah, I just don't see how anybody sees "gas the Jews" as being funny or amusing in any way. The comedian Ricky Gervais has said, a man has been convicted in a UK court of making a joke that was deemed grossly offensive. If you don't believe in a person's right to say things that you might find grossly offensive, then you don't believe in freedom of speech. What would you like to say to Ricky Gervais?
Well, from my understanding of the reports about the case, it certainly was not seen by most people as comedy or satire. It was seen as a rather sick manipulation of prejudice to score a few hits on YouTube. So I didn't see any comedy or satire in that at all, based on the reports, given that I haven't actually seen the video.
Yeah.
But no one else seemed to interpret it as being comedy or satire. They saw it as, an incitement to murder.
Steve Allen, is the judge wrong?
No, I don't think the judge is wrong, and I see the point you're making, that he was using it as an example of something that is disgusting, but done in a way that could cause offence to the people who would not just be offended. It's not just about being offended, it's about feeling threatened, isn't it? So there must be some people who don't find it funny, so you take out the humour element. If you find that threatening, then that's what we need to look at.
It's not funny at all.
None of it's funny.
I know, but I do think you have to see it in context of freedom of speech.
No,
because
I don't. No,
that's what.
No,
what
I mean,
it's
listen.
about.
I've lived in a conflict in Northern Ireland where you can't have that freedom of speech, because that just incites hatred, it incites violence, it incites murder. Peter Tatchell is absolutely right. It is a crime, and rightly so. And there's nothing funny about it. End of. That's my view.
I mean, I'm listening to Talk
James,
Radio,
listen.
and I'm listening to two snowflakes from my generation. Unbelievable.
Well, no, we're
James,
just prodding you.
Anything but snowflakes. Listen, I tell you what I think should have been done to this guy who did it. He shouldn't have been. Just a minute. Shut up, or I'll smack you. I don't think this bloke should have been put in prison.
Expecting this on the James Whale show.
James, if you'd shut your mouth for a moment and listen, then we would have a conversation instead of you shouting off at them. James, this guy should not have been put in jail.
Well, that's really big of you, James. Well done.
No, but what he should have been done is tied to a stake and thrashed.
Yeah. Why not?
Right.
Tie him to a stake, thrash him, and tell him, don't do that again, because that's really nasty.
I mean, the dog thing
if somebody's
is a bit
family was
it's a bit comical,
gassed in the Second World War.
But like much more serious, being racist, I know you say people should be able to just defend themselves, but say like a group of, there does have to be a legal limit, or there will be like riots, won't there?
That's the whole point. Over generations, we have fought for the right of freedom of speech, and one of the types of freedom of speech that we fight for is the right to say what you like.
But you don't have the right to say what you like, James.
You can condemn people for it.
James, you don't have the right to say what you like.
Yes, you do.
No, you don't.
That's freedom of speech.
You don't have that freedom. In many ways, you don't. I have the freedom.
Now Police Scotland are on your case when you teach your dog to do the Hitler salute. No, you don't.
Yeah, he deserves everything he got. He's a pillock, that bloke. And I have the freedom to call him a
you were
prat.
more sophisticated than that. I really did.
I am sophisticated, and I think I can see where somebody is just taking the pee out of everybody else.
Both, we're listening to twin snowflakes. Blimey.
Well, James, you can't offend me because I don't get offended, but there are people who do get... Shut up a minute.
People do find you very offensive, and I'm amazed that as a giver of offence...
Since he worked at the BBC, for a few years, and it made him like that, a snowflake. Yeah, you're right.
Listen, I used to get a regular call from Victor Lewis Smith, who you will be aware of, who's an old friend of mine. And Victor Lewis Smith used to ring up a show I used to in the north of England when he was at university. That's how long ago this was. And he'd ring up and he'd say, "Oh, I want to talk about freedom of speech." And I knew what was coming. And we'd have a conversation. He always sounded a bit like Jacob Rees-Mogg, but there we are. And he'd talk until he then put in the F word, and I would have to cut him off. And then he'd come back and he'd say, see, there's no freedom of speech in this country. I'm not allowed to say whatever I want. And there are rules and regulations. I can criticize anything a government is doing, anything you're doing, anything else. But, there are certain rules and regulations, and I don't think it makes society any better to train your dog to do a Hitler salute when you talk about the gassing of a number of people, which is just nasty.